Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for all coming after lunch. Like I said, you know, we've all had a delicious lunch. We've all rolled in. I'm sure half the people in the room want to take a nap. I certainly did. Um, so thank you for coming to talk about security of humans. Just as a quick note, I normally prefer to take questions at the end. So please take a note and remember to ask them at the end rather than during the talk. So for anyone who has not had the pleasure and or displeasure of meeting me prior, my name is William Brown. I'm a senior software engineer here at SUSE Labs. And in my day job, I work on identity management systems. So I am the creator of the CunnyDM project, which has a number of spin-offs and influences a number of other projects. I work on 389 Directory Server, which is one of the LDAP servers that's used commonly in open source. Do a lot of WebAuthn stuff. And of course, for a lot of you, you probably would never have met me before, for some of you, because I'm from Australia, which means that I only get to see you all once a year. So I really appreciate the fact that we get to have this kind of event and all get to meet up and hang out. So it's always lovely to see all of you. So that means that if you do have any questions, best way to get in contact with me is via email, because yes, I do live on the other side of the planet. Yes, I would probably be asleep right now. So send me an email, wbrown@suse.de, if you ever want to get in touch. So, as I touched on, one of the things that I get to do in my job is I work on authentication, which is really cool. I love what I do. I really do. If you've ever spoken to me about it, I will chat your ear off about authentication stuff. And what I find so interesting about it is it's just such a weird and varied space. You know, it has so many different parts, from performance, databases, distributed systems, human user interfaces, and especially I think the obvious one is security. Turns out people's accounts need to be secured. So I have a lot to say on the concept of security. And I think that's the thing, is that while my work is very openly facing security every day, I think it's very easy to overlook the fact that everyone in this room, the work that you all do has a security impact as well. Whether you're working on a compression library, a keyboard backlight, or anything else, every single thing that you write or work on goes into a computer, and every single thing that runs on that machine is a potential avenue for an attacker to exploit. Even small innocuous vulnerabilities or exploits can be built up into an exploit chain, allowing a system compromise. And so we don't just have to worry about those fancy 0 days that happen sometimes. We actually have to think about all those smaller parts as well. And, the thing is that these security risks, they impact humans. So just as a quick survey, who here in this room is a human? Hands up. I really appreciate the honesty down here in the front of the room. We had 2 non-answers, and you know what? I'm not even going to disagree. I appreciate that. Love you 2 to bits. It's great. So this is really important, because all of us here are humans, which means that the security, when a security incident occurs, it affects all of us here, but it also affects anyone who relies on our work. And those decisions that we make are really important, because they affect everyone else around us. And often the people here don't have a choice in using the software that we write. For example, most of you in the room didn't choose that you trust these people here in this photo. This is me with some members of the 389 team a couple of years ago. And yet every day, I would guarantee that somewhere in the world, you have an account stored in a database that I helped write. You didn't know that, you didn't choose to trust me, but you have to. And at the same time, I have to trust all the work that you do in every single day. Every single day when I install a Leap system or a Tumbleweed system, I grab something from OBS and then I put that system on the internet, I have to trust that you have all done your jobs. And I really do actually have that trust in you all. You're all, hired here for a reason. And indirectly, what's really important here is that all of our customers are trusting us as well. And beyond that, our customers, where are they deploying that software? Supermarkets, telcos, things like that. Millions of people around the world indirectly are relying on us, but never had a choice as to say, hey, actually, we're going to be relying on you. That's a lot of, and this is really scary for me, because that's a lot of responsibility on us as engineers. If people ever ask me what keeps me up at night, that's it. It's that oh gosh, there's a lot of people who rely on what I do and they don't even know it. And that sometimes is very terrifying. And I think that's what's one of the most important things for us to always remember is that computers are always about humans, whether it's us, the developers, or the users who end up using those systems. And I think that what's really important about being a human is that mistakes and disasters happen. So it doesn't matter. It's not a case of if the mistake will happen, it's when. And when that disaster occurs, we need to be ready for it. And we as humans will make plenty of mistakes. And of course, security incidents and these mistakes have a whole variety of causes. And many of these have human factors being a contributor. Now, if you've spoken to me about security incidents before or system outages, you will have heard me say this like a broken record, contributing factor. Commonly in IT, we like to say that things have a root cause. But this is not an accepted concept in many other disciplines. And in fact, a lot of disciplines which have very serious and high stakes, such as medicine, aviation, transport safety, they do not accept the term root cause in an incident. It does not exist. There are no disaster comes from a singular event. Any mistake or any incident is built of a series of contributing factors where each one of those layers of cheese has to line up. And eventually, once you twist them all enough, you find the hole that goes all the way through them. It was not one failure, but multiple. And those combination of contributing factors, we can't just say that one of them was any more or less important. We have to be willing to say, hey, actually, these were all of the different things that led to that mistake. So a common contributing factor for us in humans is that we make bugs. It turns out that human brains are really amazing, right? Like, how awesome are our brains? Like, you can look and just think about the processing going on with your eyes, where you can look at this room and just identify all the objects and the people and their names, like instantly. Unbelievable what your brain can do. But unfortunately for us, our brains didn't really evolve to hold the entire state of a computer in our head when we were foraging around in caves for mushrooms. Like, that just wasn't really something that evolved with as a human nature. And so as a result, we make a lot of mistakes when we're coding. But despite this, we see some very interesting takes online. Just get better C programmers. This is a real quote from the lead software engineer of a very well-known and important piece of software that deals with a lot of security for people. And this is their attitude to security, is get better C programmers. And I don't really agree with this. I actually think that we need to embrace and understand that we're humans and we make mistakes, and vaccination and prevention is better than the cure. So what are some of the things that we can do to prevent mistakes in the first place? Well, often I think with security in our work at SUSE, we're used to a lot of security being reactive. The issue comes up and then we react and then we patch it and then we put something out. We have an entire team dedicated to, I think we have a whole team dedicated to patching and security and then being able to emergency update stuff and push out those patches. That's reactive security. And that's very important, but we also need to be preventative. We need to prevent the problem happening in the first place. And this is a really good one for us to all think about, is how do we invest in tooling that supports us as humans? Because like I said, we make mistakes. We can't just hold the entire state of how a computer works in our head at all times. Turns out computers are really good at doing repetitive, boring tasks over and over again. So tools like sanitizers, fuzzers, static analysis, and newer memory-safe languages. I told you I was going to say newer memory-safe languages, didn't I? There was a challenge. Well, I was told by someone, you're going to say a word in this talk. I was like, no, I'm not going to say that word for the next 45 minutes. And if I say what the word is that I was going to say, then I'd be saying the word, so I'd be violating my promise. There's a certain memory-safe language that I really like to use that I've been told I'm not allowed to say. But it's important. Memory-safe languages are important. And, this is coming from me. And I say it's coming from me as though I'm the authority. No, it's coming from me from the position of, I work on 389. That's 500,000 lines of C code. That is a really big responsibility to be taken care of. And we actually started to introduce like this kind of tooling into 389. So we started to introduce like address sanitizer, Coverity, and things like that. And when we first did, oh my Lord, it was really uncomfortable to start with, because you're suddenly there trying to run this software and you get all of these errors and you're like, but this code has existed for 10 years, or I wrote that last week. There's no way that it could be wrong. How could this be wrong? How could this mistake have existed for so long? And it's really, really uncomfortable as the engineer to be on the receiving end of that. And often the reaction is, no, Coverity has to be wrong. There's no way. Coverity has to be wrong. There's not a deadlock here. Number of times where I've had to eat my words and go, actually, Coverity was right. Thing is that those tools are very good at what they do, and they are challenging at first and they are time consuming. But once you get them integrated, the breath of fresh air, oh my gosh, you don't have to think about buffer overflows anymore. You're like, they don't even get committed. You free up so much more time for yourself to develop features and do what you love, which is, causing problems online or trolling on mailing lists. I don't know what it is you do in your free time, but you get so much more free time to actually develop features by embracing, hey, I'm a human, I make mistakes. Let's get some tooling to help prevent them. And it also really helps with lowering customer bug reports coming in, which is awesome. That's a great thing to lower. So investing in tooling is really important. We are humans, we make mistakes. Let's invest in that. But I want to come back to this comment because this comment's really interesting. Just get better C programmers. So this is a really interesting one because I think it gives us a bit of insight into the mentality of the person who said it. Now, I can't claim to understand them fully, but we're emotional creatures. All of us are human. We have emotions, we have feelings. We can't deny that. That's part of being a human. And a comment like this, I think it really does come from an emotional place. I think I can't know what the emotion was that the author of this comment felt, but there are so many things it could be. It could be hubris and overconfidence. It could be a feeling of elitism. It could be a fear of being replaced. It could even just be a level of belief and self-assurance that they are so, their belief in this is just so strong that they feel that this is correct. But we have to recognize that as an emotional reaction. And that's exactly what it is. It's just an emotion. But we have to be aware of it. And awareness of those emotions is really critical to security because, unfortunately, security is not an emotional topic. It is you get owned or you don't. It doesn't matter whether you are happy about it or not. Just because we feel strongly about something doesn't make it correct or secure. So we have to be able to step back, understand when we're feeling something and say, hey, actually, we need to reassess this. A really good way of doing this is threat modeling. I don't think this Japanese model train set creator had really modeled in for Gojira to come along and muck up their day. And I think a really important thing about threat modeling here is that security is never an absolute. What is secure for one person is not always secure for someone else. And I think I could not have asked for better public news in order to highlight this example. The messenger Signal is a really good secure messenger for individuals personally, but it is really not the tool you want for messaging about national security matters. But that's the thing. We can't say that Signal is or is not secure. It is the context under which the tool is used that defines whether it is or is not secure. And that is about what is the threat model, what are the risks. So I'm not going to go too deep into threat modeling. That is an entire 3-day series, and I really did not have the energy to put in for that. You'll need to do some homework, but even at a basic level, it will help you to understand how you can approach and think about these kind of topics. The summary really is that you just need to identify the actors involved in the system, think about what data is moving around, what's happening, and potentially what risks. So, quick example. We have a user who wants to authenticate to LDAP, funnily enough, that's what it does, and they have to communicate over a network. But the risk here is that some nefarious actor will try and steal their credentials. So, what are some ways that we could prevent this? This is the time where I'm giving you permission to actually say something. You can. What are some ways we could prevent a a theft of the user's credentials here. Anything. Yep. Encryption. So encryption's a really good one. So that could be, so what kind of encryption could we be using here? Socket layer, so TLS is, so yep, we could encrypt the actual tunnel over the network. Is there anything else? Anyone? Looking at you, Jim. You could, that is a option. You could encrypt the credentials and send them over the network. That's true. There's other risks with that. We'll come back to that. That was a really good suggestion for all the wrong reasons. Anyone else? Man, maybe this is why I've got the job as the authentication person, because I saw this and I went, I've already thought of like 5. Like you could, instead of sending the credentials, you could use a certificate, you could do asymmetric cryptography, you could do something like Kerberos. So like you could eliminate the need for doing the password over the network in the first place. You could do something like PAKE, like a password authenticator. Like there's all of these different things we could do here. But that's the thing, is if we came in with a prescriptive approach and we said, no, we're going to use TLS, we never would have sat down and explored the other options. So you have to come in and saying, okay, what is the situation? What are the possible options? Rather than saying, here is the solution, and then just sticking it onto the situation, because that's going to eliminate a lot of possibilities and in fact, potentially might even be the wrong thing. And this is really important. You cannot deal in absolutes. This has not come through properly here. This is the Obi-Wan standing there with Anakin going, only a Sith deals in absolutes, and pulling out his lightsaber, and then they have a little bit of a dance. And that's, I think, what's really important here is that, saying that X is secure isn't valid. Saying that X is or is not isn't valid. You have to say, it's secure under these constraints. It is insecure under these constraints. There is this history of behavior that influences security decisions, things like that. And this is really important for our decision makers. I don't know if I see any in this room right now, but this is the thing that they need to hear is, hey, if you're a product manager and someone comes to you and says, this thing is going to improve security of SUSE Linux Enterprise, you need to turn around and say, what's your threat model? Because just saying something is going to magically secure something does not help anyone. You need to understand, okay, under what conditions is this going to be a security positive for our product and our business? Threat modeling can be a really difficult thing for many of us to do. Often we do get very passionate about our work and we really care about it. And so once we start to do that threat modeling, we can very quickly unravel that, oh, this thing I really care about, oh, actually, this is the wrong way. And then you get this cognitive dissonance where you're like, no, this has to be right. This has to be right. There has to be something wrong with this. And you end up trying to convince yourself in this loop that, no, this absolutely is the right way and it must be other stuff. And this is a really difficult thing because this ends up, hurting us. Like we've put all this energy into something and it really hurts. Our passion is such a strength. Within open source, I feel like there's so many passionate people involved, like whether it's this room or the next. You talk to them and they have such a care for what they do and it drives them. They want to do the best. And that passion is amazing because it drives them not just to make these projects and code, but like create hacker spaces and these amazing art, like amazing creative pieces of art and so much more. But it can also be a hindrance. Those feelings, that passion can really blind us. It can mean that legitimate technical criticism, when we receive it, really hurts because this is something we care about. We poured our soul into this and someone's saying, no, this won't work. That feels like such a kick that, all of this time and energy you've put in is now wasted, and that really hurts. We end up in this fight or flight response mode, which my cat beautifully demonstrated here one day, which funnily enough, the fight or flight she's showing, she just hates the camera. So as soon as I got the camera out to take a photo of her, then she was like, no. Anyway, that fight or flight response, I think more often than not, especially in open source, we would definitely see this on mailing lists. I can't really count the number of times I've seen fights on mailing lists. And realistically, I think where that comes from is that the people involved really care about what they do and potentially they are feeling like hey, this hurts because you're not listening to me, or this can't be wrong. And there's so much passion going into it that everyone ends up just not listening to each other. And at the end of the day, if we don't accept that input sometimes, we can be left open to a security risk that otherwise would not have been present in our software. I think this happens to all of us. I can't possibly sit here and hope to say that I'm better than this. This happens to me all the time. Number of times that I have had exactly this response and mirrored my cat's behavior here, and then had to stop and catch myself and go, actually, yeah, what this person is saying, that bug report, that contributor, what they're saying, actually, yeah, they're right. I have royally messed this up. It's beyond counting at this point. It affects even the best of us. And I think further to this, we all have our own experiences and views. We all see the world in such a different way. And there's a number of different names in psychology for this. There's been Umwelt, which was coined by Jacob von Uxel and Thomas Sebuck, which I've copied here from Wikipedia. There's reality tunnel. These concepts have very deep flaws. I'm going to just start with that now. But they have limits, but as a tool, they can be useful in context to explain certain human behavior. So, as an example, I know you seem very active in talking about stuff. What do you see? Yell it out.
Passport.
All right, he sees a passport. What else do you think about when you see it? Anything at all? Just not that I'm not from here, things like that. Immigration, yeah. So you see this passport and it's like, oh, this is just a prop being waved at me. But to me, I see something different. I remember the times when I went through different countries with this passport, and I see like these very different experiences. And I think that's kind of, I remember when I got this one, actually, this is my new one, and I'm actually really disappointed in the build quality of the new passports that Australia's been issuing. They've got these like flimsy plastic covers, and the old ones had these really nice cloth bound. And so, but the point here is that you can see that, just within this one little example, we each saw this in a slightly different way. Like Stephen here was saying like immigration, you saw passport, someone said, I think foreign office or foreigner. Like everyone is looking at this same situation, but in a different way. And that's the whole point of this reality tunnel or Umwelt concept, is that we each perceive the world in a way that's built through our experiences. And this can be super powerful, right? And it's in fact what makes us indispensable as engineers. Like AI won't be able to take over from us, I'm going to say it here, because as engineers, what we bring isn't our ability to write code. It's our ability to have experiences and provide context to problems. It's our ability to say, hey, I've seen this before, let's think about that. Oh, I've also seen this other concept, let's try and work that in. Hey, actually, I've had these experiences that say, oh, maybe what the customer is currently requesting us to do may actually violate these other things that I've seen in the past. That context, that experience is what is so important and makes us engineers and makes us so good at what we do. And just like our passion for what we create, though, when our experiences are contradicted, this one is a real spicy one. You can really feel like an attack. And this one's very much part of human nature and very hard to overcome. So before I did this talk, I actually put out a survey to try and understand and highlight some of these elements. The survey was really interesting, and I got back a lot of really interesting results from it. And in the end, I actually didn't end up getting to talk about so much of it in this talk, because a bit of I didn't have time, and other bits was, well, it'd be really hard to kind of integrate that in and things like that. But so if you do want to know more about what it was that I was surveying and like what those results were, then come and see me after. But this one is really interesting on its own. This here on the left is, do you believe that open source software is secure? 1, not at all. 5, very much. Second is, do you believe closed source software is secure? Same scale. So we'll zoom in first on the open source one. Now, pretty obvious. We can see a trend here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So people believe open source is more secure, or people are more likely to believe that open source is secure. So we've got this very nice, weighting towards the 4 column. Most people believe that open source software is secure. This is closed source. we can see the opposite. We can see that people are weighted to the left. We can see that there was a lot of people who don't believe closed source software is secure at all. We see a lot of people like averaging around the middle, but no one at the right-hand side actually believes that closed source software is very secure. So here's where this is really interesting. Studies suggest that when it comes to vulnerabilities in open and closed source software, there is no significant difference in the severity of those vulnerabilities, and generally speaking, it is equally likely for vulnerabilities to be present in both open and closed source software. Now, those studies were conducted by academic institutions. There have been multiple of them. I would encourage you to go and look them up and research them. I actually found a number of them on RCIV and a number of other academic locations. But what I really want you to do right now is stop. Quite a few people in this room will have had a feeling inside of themselves. That response is one that I want you to hold on to. That feeling is that I've just told you something which might contradict your belief. Because I would say a lot of people in this room, we work for SUSE, we're all open source people. We're more likely to believe that open source software is more secure than closed. So I've just told you something that contradicts that. So what was that feeling that you had when you heard and felt that contradiction? So that's the feeling I want you to isolate and examine in the future. When you feel that contradiction, when you feel that feeling, that's when it's really important to be able to step back and go, hang on, I'm having that feeling where it's like, hang on, I've been presented with something that's like a little bit weird. I'm not sure what to do with it. Go seek out more evidence, do some more research, try and keep an open mind. And that's really important for us. And we all need to be able to do this. Like having an open mind opens up this entire world to us about all of these things where, we've probably historically been shutting out a number of really interesting sources of information and lessons that we could learn from. When we have those times when our experiences are challenged, we can't allow that emotional reaction to define our response. And again, I have been just as a victim to this as anyone else. And I could list many times where, I have fallen into this same trap. This is really important because there are so many interesting things we can learn from other systems, even closed sourced ones. And I'm about to tell you some cool lessons we could learn from them. So, did you know that Microsoft Windows has one of the most deeply integrated and fine-grained access control systems of any operating system ever made? Like, it's unbelievable how good that access control system is. It has the ability to run high-level processes in isolated VMs for memory protection to protect local user credentials so that they cannot be exfiltrated or exploited on the machine. That's awesome. macOS has a read-only root file system which is cryptographically validated on the device. And from the moment you turn that machine on to the login screen, every single piece of code has been cryptographically attested to its state. That is an unbelievable thing to have. To be able to assert trust in your machine is in a known good state. This is fantastic. Like, all of these are really cool things. How cool would it be if we could have this in SUSE? Like, I know that there's a lot of work going on at the moment in things like full disk encryption and attestation for early boot, but that doesn't mean we're getting to the point where something like the GNOME login screen is cryptographically attested the whole way down. How cool would it be if we could get to that? That would be awesome. Like having cryptographically attested build machines so we can ensure that they're in a known state and not compromised. These are awesome things. We should be taking these lessons and ideas from others and integrating them into our own work. And if we close ourselves off to the idea that there are other things in closed source and other technologies, we're never going to find these sources of inspiration to improve ourselves. So I think I've run well under time. I have tried to slow down, but I probably went a bit too fast. But these are my takeaways. Like when I was writing this talk, I rewrote this talk 4 or 5 times. And these were the lessons that I have learned from myself over time and that I really hope that you would take away from this. And that is that there are no root causes, only contributing factors. We're all humans. We plan for our inevitable mistakes. We have emotions. We need to be aware of them. Prevention is always better than the cure. Build in supports in your tooling and quality assurance. Threat modeling is absolutely paramount. Security is contextual, never absolute. Our experiences are all unique, but so are other people's and may not be, and our experiences are not the whole story. Our passion is an amazing strength, but also a weakness, and don't let it control you. And finally, be open to external ideas. There is an entire world out there we can learn from, and even other industries, disciplines, all of which can be wonderful inspirations for us as engineers. So this ultimately is the fact that, these are some of my views on security, and I hope that sharing them has given you some food for thought. But ultimately, these views have been shaped through the experiences of my career. And I really do believe that one of the most important things we can do for security is understand that we're humans. We are the ones who make software. We are the ones who create the software which can be secure or insecure. We are the ones who make the decisions that affect those people. Us in this room, the consequences of our actions is so far-reaching. It is unbelievable. And ultimately, our humanity is such a strength, but also a weakness, and we really need to acknowledge that and be aware of it. So, and once we are aware of that, we can continue to improve as individuals, as open source communities, as teams, and ultimately as a business. I'm here for the business trip. I've got to say the business stuff in there. I should have actually put a slide in at the end. It just says AI as like the obligatory AI spiel, but unfortunately I didn't think about that and I should have done it. So instead, thank you very much for coming and listening. I hope this was at least interesting. I didn't see anyone falling asleep, which is a great sign. I didn't see anyone smiling though, so. There we go. There's the smiles. Love it. The AV team does better jokes than I do. Come on. They're not going to invite me back to speak next year at this rate. So again, if you want to get in contact, my email is the best way to get in touch. I'm here the whole week. Please come see me, say hi. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. And is it me? Am I the problem? And of course, obligatory cat dad. There you go. Go relax, have a lay down, take it easy. So yeah, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Please no. What? I don't think I should talk. I'm going to break it. You mind moving back the slide? Is that the slide you want? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. I would say please come ask questions, but I don't know if I'll be able to answer them for a second. Is the audio stable now? Is the audio stable? Can I have questions? Which one? The back one is fine? Okay, that's fine. If you have questions, go to the back microphone. It's probably better that way. That way you're further away from me. I'm scary after all. Woo, no questions. I've stunned you all into silence. Anyway, thank you all very much. And please come see me if you do have any questions that you want to ask in private instead of on the recording. So yeah, thank you very much.